Welcome to our continuing series, Questions and Answers for a World in Crisis. Today, The Psychic Being, Part 7. From the Mother. Question to the Mother. Is there a psychic being in the atom? Mother. No, it is not yet there. It can be said that there is a possibility of psychic consciousness in matter. The diffusion of the divine consciousness had only one object: to make possible an organization which would be under the direct influence of the divine. That is why it passes over all the worlds of disorder. It may hence be said that the origin of the soul is also in the atom, in all the elements constituting the atom, but it is only the origin. I must tell you that when it is fully formed, the psychic being has a distinct form which corresponds to our physical form. It is not altogether similar, but it has a definite form. Every psychic being is different from another. They are not all cut out, modeled to one pattern. They are different. Each has an individuality, a personality. At the time of the publication of this talk, Mother added the following note for the sake of precision. Quote, "Some parts of the vital are worlds of disorder, and the beings inhabiting the vital have no psychic being. The psychic being exists only upon earth, in the physical world. That is why I said in brief that the divine spark, which organizes the psychic, passed over the worlds of disorder and manifested itself directly in the physical world to create there this possibility of organization around the divine spark." Question to the Mother. In what does a psychic being's progress consist? Mother. Individualization, the capacity to take up all experiences and organize them around the divine center. The aim of the psychic being is to form an individual being, individualized, personalized, around the divine center. Normally, all the experiences of the external life, unless one does yoga and becomes conscious, pass without organizing the inner being. While the psychic being organizes these experiences serially, it wants to realize a particular attitude towards the divine. Hence, it looks for all favorable experiences in order to have the complete series of opportunities, so to say, which will allow it to realize this attitude towards the divine. Take someone, for example, who wants to have the experience of nobility, a nobility which makes it impossible for you to act like an ordinary person, which infuses into you a bravery, a courage, which may almost be taken for rashness, because the attitude The experience demands that you face danger without showing the least fear. I was telling you a while ago that I would explain to you what one could acquire by entering into the body of a king. A king is an ordinary man, isn't he? Like all others. He does not have a special consciousness, but through the necessities of his life, because he is a kind of symbol to his people, there are things he is obliged to do which he could never do if he were an ordinary man. I know this by experience, but I saw this also while looking at photographs which represented a king in actual circumstances. Something had happened which might have been an attempt on his life, but was averted. The photograph showed the king inspecting a regiment. All of a sudden, someone had rushed forward, perhaps with a bad intention, perhaps not, for nothing had happened. In any case, the king had remained completely impassive, absolutely calm, the same smile on his lips, without moving the least from the place where he was. And he was quite within sight, an easy target for someone who wanted to rush forward and hurt him. For all I know, this king was not a hero, but because he was a king, he could not take to flight. That would have been ignoble. So he remained calm, without stirring, without showing any outward fear. This is an example of what one can learn in the life of a king. There is also a true story about Queen Elizabeth. She had come to the last days of her life and was extremely ill. But there was trouble in the country, and about questions of taxation, a group of people, merchants I believe, had formed a delegation to present a petition to her in the name of a party of the people. She lay very ill in her room, so ill that she could hardly stand. But she got up and dressed to receive them. The lady who was attending upon her cried out, "But it is impossible! You will die of this!" The queen answered quietly, "We shall die afterwards." This is an example from a whole series of experiences one can have in the life of a king. And it is this which justifies the choice of the psychic being when it takes up this kind of life. It is memories of this kind which prove the authenticity of the experience. For what generally happens when people tell you about their past lives is this: in these lives, there is always a progress, naturally. So they become more and more splendid people in more and more marvelous circumstances. It is wrong. Things never happen like that. The psychic being follows a certain line of existence which develops certain qualities, certain powers, etc. But the psychic being always sees what it lacks, and it can choose the opposite line in a future life, a negation, so to say, of this experience in order to have complementary experiences. Please tell me what to do, Mother, so that nothing and no one can disturb me. The whole being must be governed by the psychic being, and by that alone. 31st August, 1934. Question. O Mother, what should I do? I am completely unconscious. Mother, where are you? Mother, in your psychic being. I am always present there. It is there that you can find me and must find me. And when you have found me there, in the depths of your heart, you will also recognize me in my physical form. 31st October, 1934. Question. By what signs can one tell that the psychic being has come to the surface? Mother, one feels peaceful and happy, full of trust, full of a deep and true benevolence, and very close to the Divine Presence. 20th December, 1934. Namaste.